Learning from textbooks, digital reading. All of the textbook strategies we've discussed in the earlier videos in this workshop series are true for both physical and digital textbooks. So, if your textbook is digital, it is still very important to consider its role in your learning, to aim to utilize active reading strategies, to get to know what your textbook has to offer and where you might find it, keeping in mind that in a digital textbook, you may have access to many more interactive features than you ever could in a physical book, and to approach reading as a three-step process: pre, during, and post-reading. However, in many ways, reading a digital textbook is undeniably different from reading a physical textbook. Researchers have been trying to understand how and why people interact differently with the two, and have shown that when students read online, they tend to comprehend less, which points to why it is so important to understand how to read a digital textbook as effectively as possible. So what are the differences between digital and print reading? Those who prefer reading in print talk about the ability to flip pages, to write in the margins, and that they remember content based on where it was located on the page. It's a very tactile experience. In contrast, digital reading takes place on a flat screen, so there's significantly less physical interaction with the textbook. In a physical textbook, chapters may include pictures, graphics, or other visual elements to supplement the author's writing. But in a digital textbook, this supplementary material might also include hyperlinks, audio, and video as well. This will fundamentally change the reading experience for you because online reading can be interactive in a way that a print book can't. An online environment allows you to work and play with content rather than passively absorbing it. And lastly, when you read in print, you generally read sequentially from the first word to the last. Maybe you'll flip to an index or refer to a footnote, but otherwise the way you read is fairly consistent and straightforward. Online, however, you can be led quickly into an entirely new area of reading by clicking on links or related content, so the experience is not linear at all. So having said all of that, it stands to reason that digital reading comes with some unique challenges. For those students who really enjoy the physical experience of having their textbook in their hands, it can be challenging to feel as engaged with content presented in a digital form. Other students prefer the linear nature of proceeding through a physical textbook without having to click on this or interact with that. Also, casual digital reading on the internet has instilled bad habits in many students, making it difficult for students to engage deeply with digital text in the same way they do when reading materials printed on paper. You have years of experience interacting with online material, but those skills are not the same skills you will need to engage with your online textbook. In addition, it will come as no surprise to any student that reading a digital textbook also offers up the real possibility or temptation to multitask or become distracted by other online sites. After all, you likely find Netflix a bit more interesting than your course content. And lastly, staring at a screen for long periods of time can be tiring as well as cause eye strain. So, what can you do to make reading a digital textbook as helpful and as effective as possible? First, engaging with the content in your textbook is always important, but especially when reading digitally. Ask yourself questions about the content, imagine real-life applications of the material, pull out the main ideas, talk to others about what you've read. These are just a sampling of ways that you can really dig into the content and engage with it even when it's presented digitally. Taking notes and/or highlighting offers a fantastic way to engage with the text. For example, making notes allows you to organize the information in a structured way, to paraphrase the content so that it makes sense to you, and create visuals that will make the material memorable. If note-taking isn't your preferred way of pulling out key information, use the highlight feature in your digital textbook to draw attention to the most important content. In addition to the usual distractions found in your study space, like people, cell phones, and televisions, digital reading means you're more likely to be distracted by online sources such as Netflix or YouTube. Shut these programs off or use a blocker to prevent your access to them while you're working in an effort to minimize digital distractions. Reading from a computer screen can cause eye strain, so plan to read for shorter periods of time. For example, read for about 30 minutes and then take a 10-minute break away from your monitor. Use this time to think about what you've just read and identify the key points or themes. Lastly, sometimes it's helpful to hear what you're reading, especially if the material is complex or difficult to understand. So study in a space where you can read aloud to yourself. So, what changes do you intend to make to your digital reading strategy moving forward? Write down your intention and make a plan to follow through.